Welcome to Vida Tennis, the podcast for those of us who eat, sleep, breathe tennis. Today, we get to hear from Ashley Owens, who, along with her husband, Tim, founded a tennis software company called Court Reserve, where she also serves as director of sales and marketing. Ashley has a strong 22-year background in sales, and she's also a former police officer, which I'm sure we will have to talk about, Ashley. She's here to share with us how technology is reshaping the business of tennis instruction. Welcome, Ashley, to Vida Tennis. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. So let's start with that last part of your bio. So how did you go from police officer to sales to now having a software company?
Oh, wow. It's been quite a journey. I grew up in a public service family. So my dad was a fire captain, my brother was a paramedic, and me being a police officer just kind of rounded out that. And so when I had my first son, Dakota, I figured out how hard that job was, nights and weekends and things like that. And so little by little, I got into sales, moved to Charlotte, and started doing sales and marketing for a medical company. And when Tim and I got married, he was a software developer. So we would go out to our local high school courts and just pop the tennis ball back and forth. And once we decided we really loved to play tennis with each other, we figured that we would like to hit more balls than chase more balls. So we thought, wow, we should probably take some lessons. So we found a local tennis club that was about 20 minutes from our home and started getting involved, started grabbing a couple lessons. And we really started working out with each other, just practice, right? Just hitting balls back and forth. And this club that we were going to was on pen and paper and a whiteboard. And you would show up to the parking lot to play a match with friends and have to put your name on a whiteboard. And it was so inefficient. It was inefficient in time management, in our own time. There was no real way to find out if they were going to have a class unless there was a court board. There was nothing online that indicated any kind of visibility for us. And so we already had developed a tennis product for tennis ladders. It's called Tennis Rungs. And just it was a couple of clubs locally that was using tennis rungs. And so we were like, you know what? We should probably develop something for this club so that we could easily book a court online. We could easily see a class and maybe book a lesson. So we actually, in our kitchen, we put up some of the white sticky paper that has the lines on it. And we started developing what the bases of Court Reserve would look like, specifically to help this club. Funny story, to this day, that club still is on pen and paper.
Oh, no, don't tell me that.
Yes, that club. But I mean, the story of Court Reserve is, with my sales and marketing background, I believe it's all about relationships. So we actually went out to a tennis conference out in the Palm Desert, and we put Court Reserve on the silent auction. And our first customer ever, Mr. Spears from Empire Tennis Academy from up in New York, he bid on Court Reserve. He got Court Reserve for $75 for 6 months. And that was 8 years ago. And he is he's our first customer, and he pays every month now, full price, and still uses Court Reserve. So that's kind of the quick journey of me going from law enforcement to where we are today.
It's interesting because you kind of went into it with a customer point of view. So you can kind of see what you need as a customer, but how was it? What was the process like to learn from the management point of view, right? Because it sounds like you and Tim, neither of you guys had kind of seen that. So what went into developing that, and how much research, I guess, did you guys put into it and in trying to develop this product?
Yeah, so Tim actually worked for a facility management for churches while we were developing Court Reserve. And so we understood the business aspect from the customer needing certain things. But from the very beginning, we developed Court Reserve, and of course, it's always slow. You always build something and you're so proud of it, and you're like, everybody's going to love it. But that doesn't usually happen. So every single time that we would interact with a potential customer, we would talk to them about what we had developed, which was very skeleton bones, right? And then we would say, what do you need? What's your pain points? What is something you're trying to solve at your club? And then Tim and Nick, who is our CTO, they would go build it. So literally, Tim would get on the call because we were both working full-time jobs and trying to build and develop Court Reserve on the side for years. So we would have that customer contact, find out what they needed, go build that specific part of Court Reserve, and then they would use the product. And then every single time we would have contacts with customers, I mean, we would build the Book a Pro where you can have it to where you put your instructor schedule online and people could request or book a lesson. We built the point of sale like that. It was just slow going. And we let all of our new and potential customers build the features that they needed because they knew what they needed. You're right. We did not have a club. So we built all the features that people said, well, if I'm going to use Court Reserve, this is what I'm going to be needing and looking for. So some of our customers, which have been with us from the very beginning, I mean, they have had so much impact on the product itself because they knew what they needed and then we went and built it for them. So Court Reserve's really been built by every single customer that's come on board. We had an idea board last year and we really had to turn it off. It had over 800 ideas on it.
Oh my
So if
God.
you can imagine going through 800 ideas. And so now we have it's a great product team and they have a process. So they take every single idea and they put it through this filtering system to say, okay, is this going to have maximum benefit for the majority of our clients? And so that's why the tennis and pickleball, padel, badminton, that racket sport paddle space we just do such a great job for them because we've stayed in our swim lane. We haven't gotten off and done tea times and things like that. And so that's really the power of Court Reserve.
It sounds like it's a collaboration amongst the user and the customer. That's such a great way to create the product. And it can be really challenging, I can only imagine. I mean, because clubs can be so different in how they do things and the rules that they have in place and the systems that they have in place. So I can only imagine how challenging it is to streamline all the different ideas and all the different ways that clubs do things, how they manage their business. So it sounds like you guys have been able to do that, to streamline it to something that can be used by most clubs. And how much customization is it from customer to customer, or is it like the same system for everybody?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when a client comes in and is interested in Court Reserve, they get a trial account or a playground. And so they get to develop the product the way that their club or facility needs it to run. And because we are 8 years in and all those different people have helped develop, it has everything that a tennis facility is going to need. And just the restrictions, let's just talk about that. Some clubs want their members to just book one court a day. Well, some of them want them to have one booking at a time. Well, some of them don't want them to book within a certain amount of time between reservations. So again, the club gets to come in and we kind of hold people's hands. We're Southern. We like to help people hold
Mhm.
people's hands, but we get to kind of lead them through, okay, here's your courts, here's your events, here's your pros, here's your payments, here's your memberships or your player access. What do you do now? And how can we help you set that up? The other thing that I think is a powerful part of Court Reserve is it's all about permissions and restrictions. So it's able to give different restrictions and permissions to not only your admins, your front desk, your instructors, the coordinators at the club who just lead your events, but also to your players, because a lot of clubs have different levels of membership.
Yeah.
They have all access membership, or they have limited summer membership, or maybe just tennis, or maybe they have a social membership. So on both sides of the admin and the member player, there's different levels of what you can allow those people to do, to see, to act upon. And so again, it sounds like a lot, but the way that we take people through the process, it actually comes out into this beautiful, customizable product just for that facility and the way they need it to run.
You make such a great point there. And I can speak on this because as a tennis director and as a tennis coach, I've gone through the process of implementing different systems. So, and I know how challenging that can be. And I've seen places and different companies, I guess, fail in that process, right? Because they don't provide the training, I guess, to their customer. And I think that's a huge part of that. So can you speak on maybe like what has been the key for you guys on that side of implementation, just kind of getting the customer comfortable with the system and getting them to use it to its full capacity or close to its full capacity.
That's a great point because how many times do you and I, as just picking up our iPhone or Android and we download an app and we use it? Well, if they do updates or they do upgrades or they add things to that, most of us do not use our cell phones to its full potential. And so, what we try and do is teach people how to use Court Reserve. We educate them on not setting it up. Once you got it set up, that's different than actually using the product day to day.
Mhm.
And when we develop something new, if it's something that you need at your club, you actually taking the time to go in and learn about that new thing and then actually putting it into your day to day. So again, it's constant hand holding, it's webinars, it's education. And my number one goal for people is to learn to use the system for a couple reasons. When you want to add something or add a class or add an instructor or change something, you want to be able to do that and run your own business. You do not want to have to call somebody else like us and wait for us to be able to do that for you. If you learn the system over time, then it becomes a part of what you can do day to day. Makes your life easy, makes your time management better, and then you can teach your own staff about how you want them to use the system. Now, of course, Court Reserve, our customer satisfaction rate is standard, like average 95%. Most SaaS companies or software as a service companies, they're lucky to get 60 or 70% customer satisfaction rates. So we're averaging 95% every day, which means that people are happy when they interact with us. We're all US based. When they're talking to somebody, they're all usually, most of them are on the East Coast of America or in the Midwest. So they're talking to somebody who actually is going to help them within a few minutes, get them the answers. But again, sometimes, occasionally, we'll have a new club come in and they just want us to set everything up for them. Well, that is going to really harm you as a club owner and a director in a lot of different ways because you're never going to understand how to use the system to its full potential. So our heart is that we teach people, we educate people while they're setting it up to use the system to really get into that. Because if you're going to use Court Reserve to run your club and to have that member facing visibility, that player experience, only you are going to know what that looks like in your day to day. We're coming up on 8 years. We still have customers from year one. And I think we have proven the model of educating people on how to use the system and not just throwing them at it, setting it up for them, and off you go.
Of course. And I think that's important also for you guys as a company because that's how you retain people is they got to see the value in the product.
Yeah.
If they don't know, how good they have it, they're probably, next year when they're looking at the budget and maybe they need to make some cuts, they're like, oh, let's get rid of this, right? And not realizing how much it can help them in every part of their business. So I'm a huge advocate for having a good system. I'm very familiar with implementation and like learning new systems. And it's so crucial to have a good point of contact with someone in the company and like really be comfortable, right? Asking questions and learning how to do everything in the system. So kudos to you guys for having that vision and that plan because I think it's really key. How big are you guys now? How many facilities are you in? And also, I want to know how long it took you guys to get to this point.
Well, I'll tell you, Tim and I were out at a conference in 2020 in March. We were going to go to the BNP Paribas, never been to a large major tennis championship or whatever. And then COVID hit. And I remember that because it was March and we hit 100 clubs in 2020. And we're getting ready to reach 1,500 at this point. So it has been, COVID really spiked our explosive growth because everybody all of a sudden needed an online reservation system. A lot of states mandated it, a lot of clubs mandated it. So we kind of accelerated, and then pickleball being the next paddle racket sport has exploded our growth as well. Again, we already had pickleball and tennis. A lot of the club functionality runs about the same, right? It's courts, it's lessons, instructors, classes, events. And so we already had a great product for that new sport. And so our growth has just been incredible. And it's not Tim and Ashley, it is our team that works with us. They are the most incredible human beings I've ever met. We all work remote, all of us. What we do to create a culture for them, they pass that along to our customers, our partners, who we call them. And we send our own team members snack boxes. We give them monthly reimbursement for chiropractic care or massage. It's the little things, the culture that we're trying to create here, because we want them to have a great experience working here. And then they pass that great experience on to our clients and customers. And then the biggest thing for us is it's word of mouth. Not only from, hey, an instructor leaves one facility that used Court Reserve and goes to another, but we have had so many players and members go and play at another place, use Court Reserve. Excuse me. That app is incredible. It makes it so easy for people to just book a court or sign up for a class wherever they are. And we've had so many members and players take Court Reserve into their own facilities. That speaks language. I mean, that's huge for me, because that means that we are doing good things for the members as well as the players. And that's what we're all trying to do. We're trying to create a great member player experience, because that makes your life as a director or coach that much easier, because then they're going to play more, take more lessons, spend more money, like all of that stuff. And it's going to keep that club strong, that community strong.
What do you think are some things that, say, a club is considering finally leaving paper, which I cannot stand, but let's say a club is still paper based. What are some things that that club should be considering when looking at different software companies? What can they be on the lookout for?
Well, I think that the number one thing is you cannot have good data and analytics when you're on paper. And if you do, it's because you're spending hours on an Excel spreadsheet. So if you want to know what classes are most popular, what drinks are selling the best in your pro shop, what members are playing more at your club, what your court utilization is, you can't do that on paper. So really, it's around data and analytics. It's about making the case. You cannot go to your board of directors or your general manager and say, hey, I need a new pro, or I need 30 more cases of tennis balls, if you can't prove why you need the pro and why you need so many more balls. I mean, it's just around technology gives us the power to pull data. I actually have a great story. There's a club that uses Court Reserve in Asheville, North Carolina, and the director came to me at the USPTA World Conference in September. And he's like, Ashley, Court Reserve saved my tennis courts. And I was like, oh, you have to tell me this story. He said that they have a mix of pickleball and tennis. And the pickleball people would show up and say, nobody's playing tennis, right? Because they generally play at different times than tennis players do at their club. So they kept fighting the fight. We need those tennis courts. We need them transitioned over to pickleball courts. And so he started pulling all of the data out of Court Reserve and showed all of the reservations and all of the people playing tennis and the court utilization for tennis, and basically fought the fight to say, hey, we need these tennis courts for these tennis players. So they actually took money out of some fund and are going to build additional pickleball courts. That's a win. And if you would have just been on pen and paper, they may have lost that fight. So again, I think it's about smart decisions, data and technology coming together so that we can have conversations around what the club actually needs and the health. And again, I take it back to time. A tennis pro in Arizona told me that he would spend like 4 hours a week doing QuickBooks invoices out to his parents, because he rented high school courts, and he would invoice these parents for his kids' classes and things like this. Well, now inside Court Reserve, he pushes a button and sends out all invoices at one time. So he went from 45 seconds, from 4 hours. You can't get time back. Time is precious. So again, technology helps us to make better decisions, increase our revenue, and then really increase that member visibility, that player visibility. Because if I'm at a club and I see all those great things and I see my friends are signing up and they're going to play and it's easy for me to do that, I'm going to do that. So that means I'm going to be coming to the club more often, spending more money, spending more time.
Yeah. And I think as a director, it's so beneficial to have everything in place where you can do payroll, you can do billing, you can look at your court reservations, you can plan for if you need to do any clinic changes, anything like that. I think that's where it comes really handy, and like all the reports, all the different things that you can do. Thank you for sharing that. And I can only imagine how much data you guys have with all these clubs. I think any company, right, that does court reservations has such good data on the business of tennis. So I wonder if that is something that a company like yours looks into, is using that data for any kind of research or development. Because like I said, you know more about the tennis business than anyone else because you have it all in your software.
We're really protective of our data, of course, with our security and stuff. We're really protective of protecting the club's data. And at Court Reserve, we believe that the facility owns their own data. We don't necessarily like give that data out. I do think it's interesting though that we can see a lot of times, especially in the fight between tennis and pickleball, you'll hear reports about, oh, tennis is not growing, tennis is not sustaining, tennis is not this. Well, that's completely false. All of our tennis clubs that are using Court Reserve, they're growing. They're just fine, right? And it's a win for tennis because tennis is, there's nothing like hitting a tennis ball. There's nothing like that sweet spot. There's nothing like it. These other paddle and racket sports I love just as much. But again, I think tennis is here to stay. And I think that the USTA, some of those educational bodies, they're doing their best to teach people, hey, tennis is a great sport. No matter what age you are, you can pick it up, you can learn it. They're always trying to get every age introduced to the sport of tennis. I think it's for every, I mean, I had a single parent growing up, and my mom got us tennis rackets somehow and used to take my brother and I to the local high school, and we would just hit tennis balls across. Well, that didn't cost my mom anything but finding us some tennis rackets and a can of tennis balls, right? Now, of course, I wasn't going to be on the track to go play pro tennis or play college tennis, but that's okay because my tennis journey has brought me to, I'm still playing tennis today. I still love it. We taught our kids to play tennis, and we can go out as a family now and enjoy a sport that we can still play forever. So I think using tennis data to let people know that tennis is still a great sport is the most important thing about the data, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's great to hear, by the way, because like you, I mean, I like all the racket sports, but tennis, I will never change my name to Vida Rackets. Like tennis is my sport, okay? And I'm
Right.
sticking to it. So
Well, and it's funny too, because, Tim and I, we played tennis for years. I mean, we captained leagues, we coached at a high school, like we did all this tennis stuff. And then we started playing pickleball, and I've continued to play tennis, but my husband is now coming back to tennis. And every time we get off the tennis court, he is just, wow, I forgot how much I loved hitting the ball. I forgot how much it felt to run across the court. So again, it's like you can come and go, and sometimes you get injured and then you recoup and you go back, but it's like riding a bicycle. There, you don't forget how to hit that ball, and it's a great feeling.
it really is. And I meant to ask you one more question about Court Reserve. Does it have a point of sale system? I mean, I'm guessing it does for like lessons and stuff, but what about pro shop stuff?
Yeah, that was one of the early features that we built. I guess if I remember correctly, one of our longtime customers out in Oklahoma helped us develop it. And of course, it's gotten better over the years. It's got inventory reporting, and you can put up pictures and give discounts and things like that. But absolutely, it's part of Court Reserve. And it is one of those features that a lot of clubs feel that since it's already integrated and it's part of the system already, you don't have to have an outside system. It's a great part of Court Reserve. It's one of my favorite features.
Okay, great. Good to know. Good to know. All right. So let's move away a little bit from talking about Core Reserve. I want to get your take on different subjects as an expert in not just software now, but sales and just the tennis business in general. So I want to ask you first, what is your perspective on the business of tennis instruction? What are some things that we may be lacking in the industry?
Well, especially if they're on pen and paper, it's visibility of what is available. I know that a lot of times, and not coming back to Court Reserve, but a lot of the pros and instructors that are self-employed, right? They're working for a local Parks and Rec. It's sometimes hard to have them connected out in the community to let the community know what's involved, how they can get started, right? So when the pro comes off of pen and paper, they're able to use technology, whatever they choose, to brand themselves. And I think get out there, show that they are certified to teach, right? That they've been teaching for years or that they played college tennis. I think it's creating that brand for the instructor and building that instructor up as far as like education and just getting them out there. The other thing, a lot of times they're taking cash checks and they're missing out on revenue when they don't use technology to their advantage. Because if you're taking $60 cash from mom for last week's lesson and this week's lesson, and then you're having to go home and kind of, again, manually kind of figure things out, that is a lot of time. And the third thing I would say around instruction is notification. I have talked to so many pros and instructors who are still emailing, texting. When it's raining and they're having to cancel classes, they're having to text 14 players, right? Or they're having to send out phone calls and stuff. And so when an instructor can embrace technology and they can hit a button and say, hey, courts are closed today, lessons are rescheduled, and they can easily keep up with their calendar on some sort of technology and not on a paper calendar, that's life changing for them. And then they can get back to what they really want to do, which is spending time on the court, spending time teaching kids, spending time talking to parents. And just from the last 8 years of interacting with so many instructors, if we can help change their life and make their life better, because they have a family too, right? I mean, again, it's going back to time management and their own time, because instructors, and Tim and I only taught a little bit of after school, high school tennis years ago, but it's a lot. And to be on the court all day long and then have to go and do manual stuff later, I mean, that's just time.
Yeah, it really is. What do you think is holding people back from doing that? I don't get it, maybe because I'm younger and I grew up with technology. Maybe it's an older generation that they've just been doing it for so long. But what do you see?
Yeah, I think change is hard. I think sometimes it's hard for an older generation to trust technology. My mom's generation grew up writing checks. I mean, how many checks do you and I write these days, right? It's just it's just a different generational thought, and they think sometimes if it's on paper and pen or it's in their pocket, then they have control over it. And so they do have control over it, but then they don't have the other things that go along with that as well. And I think as far as like getting into the tennis profession, I've been to a lot of, well, I was at PTR and PTA this year, and then I just came back from Boca at the directors conference, and it was around the idea that getting into tennis, being a tennis pro and instructor has not been a profession as much as it was, oh, well, you need to go get a real job. So I think that getting into tennis is an incredible profession. It's an amazing profession to be in, whether you're instructing tennis or whatever that looks like. And you can make a real living doing things like that. So I think it's changing and the idea that the profession is a beautiful one for people. How many people do not like sitting at a desk all day long, right? Those make great tennis pros, right? Who doesn't want to be outside and on the court and the relationships with people? So I just think that it's an industry that we need to make sure is educated, right? There's a lot of new programming for colleges coming up, the professional tennis management, educations and degrees, and I'm all for it because again, I think that it's a great profession. As a society in America, we need to encourage movement and exercise and being outside. And what a better way than to grow up and to be able to teach people to do that.
That kind of leads me to my next question for you. So I want to know, you're a sales expert. I mean, 22 years in sales. That's amazing. We love having an outside perspective on the podcast from people that come from a different background and have different experiences outside of tennis. So I really want to know what advice you would have on the sales side. Let's talk first about for the tennis pro or even the club. What are some practices we could be doing better as a club or as a tennis pro?
Well, I think it's all about relationships. I mean, you're only going to care what I have to say if you understand where I'm coming from and know me. And so I think building relationships, maybe offering some free clinics to get people in the door. I've worked for some companies that it was hardcore sales. You got to beat the door down. And I did. And that's hard, right? And I've worked for some companies that did it a little differently. And after 22 years, it's really all about the relationship. And especially when it comes to what we get to do now at Court Reserve, I may not be able to help you right now. You may not need my help right now, but let's become friends and let's get to know each other and let's stay in contact. And then when you do need me, you know who I am and you know I can help you. And so, again, it may be the same kind of relationship as a tennis pro or a tennis director. Get to know people in your community, get them to understand your passion and your purpose behind your profession, right? Like why you do what you do. Get out there a little bit, maybe offer some unusual, like free days of tennis. What? Give away free instruction. Well, that's how you get people to know you and understand what your passion is, right? And then when they're ready, they'll trust you enough to come to you. So,
And what about tennis as an industry? How can we sell tennis better? Because I mean, I think pickleball has some kind of sales mastermind behind it because holy moly, it's everywhere. Like now there's like this thing at Target with prints and they're selling pickleball. And it's like pickleball, pickleball. Everybody loves it. They want to bring their friend. Everybody invites you to play. And I think that's great. I mean, I think it's a nature of the sport that people just get really hooked on it and people are really passionate about it. So I feel like we are missing that a little bit in tennis. What do you think? Any things that you can think of that we can maybe take away from maybe not necessarily pickleball, but from your experience on how we can just promote the sport better?
I think it starts in the community, right? I think it starts in the parks and rec and in the schools
Yeah.
because when I was growing up in my little town in tiny little North Carolina, we didn't have tennis until I got to junior high. And those of us who are older, it was junior high, not middle school. And the first time I ever hit a tennis ball was me and my brother finding tennis in some realm and thinking, hey, that looks cool. My mom getting us the rackets and letting us hit balls back and forth. But again, we didn't have the funds or the opportunity to take lessons or classes. And I don't even know if there was a club near where we grew up. But again, I think it comes back to like community involvement, tennis instructors. Maybe you work at a club, but maybe once a week you go into the school or you go into the community and offer that free clinic for anybody that can come out and play. When we lived outside of Charlotte in North Carolina, there was a great tennis instructor there. And it was so much fun. He made tennis so much fun for those kids. The parents would come, and then when their kids were having fun, then he would figure out a way to get the kids playing with the parents. And I mean, I think it goes back to just, you know, pickleball's done a great job of making it easy to access because it's mostly in parks and recs for free and people teaching each other and get your friends together, grab some tennis rackets, go hit some balls. I mean, most public parks have at least one tennis court in most cities. And so I would just say it takes a little bit of effort on people, but it also takes effort on us as a body of tennis people, whether it's software or rackets. It's not just about the country club tennis people, right? Tennis is for everyone, right? And it starts, Parks and Recs have done a great job of embracing pickleball. And I think that we just need to continue to do that with tennis and get back to having fun. The fun thing in pickleball really is that you're playing, it's social, it's a lot of fun. And maybe that's what we need to do in tennis. We just need to show how much fun it can be. And not that it's not serious, but I mean, again, if you want more kids to grow up and play tennis, then man, let them have fun at it and they'll never forget it.
I agree with you. That's the key. It's the fun of it.
Mhm.
I think at one point tennis, or sometimes I guess it can get too serious. And it's like,
Yes,
let's just have fun. Maybe if you don't have to have so many rules, like maybe relax them a little bit so people feel welcomed.
sure.
And I think that's what pickleball has brilliantly done because you can play music, you can wear whatever, and I think that brings people in.
Yes.
And it's just missing that, at least on the like you say in the Parks and Rec side of it. It's like
Yeah, I've been to a couple cardio tennis classes years ago. And I mean, I love tennis matches, but there's nothing like going to a fun tennis class with a great fun tennis instructor. I mean, sign me up all day long. I'd rather go out there as a 46-year-old female and run my butt off and have a blast for an hour than play a boring, quiet match for an hour and a half. I mean, because I'm getting my exercise in, I'm getting my sunshine in, I'm having fun, and I'm outdoors, and it's just all of those things. And so, again, I think it's at any level Teaching people, whether they're kids or adults, that tennis can be so much fun just getting out there running around hitting the ball.
Yeah. And I think programming helps bring that fun aspect too. Having clinics, I think there's a certain element to fun to a tennis clinic where it takes away the serve, it takes away the stopping in between points, and people are just running around having a good time, no pressure. Is it the real game? No. Is it fun? Yes. Are you working out? Yes. Are you growing tennis? Yes. So so
Yes.
let's have clinics. I think like it's sad to me when I see a public facility or a public court and there's just like no programming. And I'm
Yes.
like, where is the coach? Where is the cardio tennis? Like, let's get this together.
So actually, the high school that we lived next to outside of Charlotte for 11 years, and it's just history, right? Football was the most important thing, baseball, the most important thing. Their fields were pristine, they were taken care of. The tennis courts had cracks in them. They had grass growing in them in the summer. So you got all these kids in the middle of the summer with nothing to do. And you've got tennis courts that if you kept them mowed, we could still play tennis on, but they would literally let the grass grow up through the
Oh,
cracks. And I just wanted to shake people and say, you're discouraging players at your own high school from continuing to play over the summer because the environment that they have is not kept up. But then you look at the other sports in the high school, right? In the same high school, and they're pristine and they're taken care of and they're loved on. And so I think it has a lot to do with the idea, the community at the Parks and Recs level, but also in our high schools, our middle schools and things to say, hey, this is a sport that is as important as the other sports at our school.
yes, louder for the people in the back. Yes, I support that message 1,000%. All right, what are some of the main lessons that you have learned throughout this crazy journey of growing court reserve and getting to where you guys are at? Looking back now, what are some things that you have really just taken in from the process?
The first lesson is really like fail forward. We are not perfect. We've made some mistakes. We're run by people. Everybody makes a mistake every once in a while. I think having a lot of grace, and just like being able to say, wow, we were wrong. We're sorry. We're going to make this right. I think I've learned we've kind of created a culture that you do what you say you're going to do. So if you tell somebody that you're going to have a product, a part of our product out there, then we need to keep that. We need to keep our word. Tim and I, we are still married happily, right? And it's been a journey for us as a couple to run a company and to really bring it to life and have something that we didn't even know was going to be this amazing journey. We just wanted to help our own club. And so I think going in and continually knowing that we want to help people, whatever that looks like, whether it's helping them with court reserve or helping them just do something in their own life, even if it's our own teammates. We don't have employees, we have teammates at court reserve. They all work alongside of us. And we want to make sure that those people that their work-life balance is good. And it's the dream here is not for sale. This is an incredible dream that we are walking in day to day. And we just want to continue to be so thankful for all the people that work alongside of us that we get to do it with them. Because let me be clear, Tim and I have hired people that work alongside of us that are way smarter than we are. So it's because of these people that we're able to do what we get to do. And I think just the people are the most important part, whether it's the teammates, whether it's our customers, our clients, our partners. It's really about the relationship and it's really about the people. And so I think as I mean, I wanted to create an environment that I would want to spend time at and work with. And hopefully that's what we've done. And we're going to continue to do those things and make this such an incredible thing. We want to be the light in people's days. We want, if your world's on fire and you come to us, we want to try and help you have a better day. So that's really some of the things that we've learned.
That's awesome. And I can only imagine what it must be like for you to have done this alongside your husband. I think that speaks volumes on how great of a marriage you guys have. I mean, Woo, that could either make or break you, I think, working, developing a company like this. Do you guys sometimes want to kill each other or?
Yes, of course. Yes. Every marriage has ups and downs, and we work so closely together, but he's my person.
Yeah.
He is my person. When I have to travel without him, or and it's most of the time me going and him staying home, but he's my person. And yeah, sometimes we disagree but it's because we care so much. We care about what we're doing. We care about doing the best job. We do not like to disappoint people, and we don't like to disappoint each other. We've learned this thing that if we're having a pretty heated discussion about something, we'll just take a break. One of us will be like, all right, I just need a break. I just need a break, because we're able to come back and honor each other in a way that we know why we're so passionate about it, right? And so sometimes I defer to him, sometimes he defers to me, sometimes I've been wrong, sometimes he's been more wrong. But it's fantastic. And I think that when you get to create something together, I mean, two of our three kids work with us right now.
Oh,
So it's a family, like we're able to create something that, again, that we want to spend time doing. And so it's been an incredible journey. We never even imagined we would be at this point where we could continue to work together and work alongside so many great people, including our own kids. So
yeah.
it's been great.
Yeah. And where do you see Core Reserve going in the future? Are there any exciting things that we should be on the lookout for?
Oh yeah. We have a new modern dashboard coming out on the app. It is smooth. It's Core Reserve's already intuitive and easy, but it's going to make it even better. And it's going to make the clubs um, even better to customize their own app for their players. It's going to have the weather. It's going to have location. It's just going to have so much more. So that's really exciting. Our branded mobile app's coming out soon. So if you at your club, you wanted to have the Vida Tennis Club app in the App Store, well, then your club can have that. So that's really cool new feature. We're going to have some tennis leagues in there soon. So that's going to be great, because a lot of clubs just want to have inter club leagues. They just want to be able to do that within the club. That's exciting.
Yeah.
We have a 10-year plan. Court Reserve has a 10-year plan about what some of the things that we're going to do. And of course, we don't give away the 8, 9, and 10 years yet, but I mean, we want to continue to make this a product that can help solve problems and really uplift and elevate every club that needs to use it.
Yeah. Fantastic. And then actually my last question to you, what has been the grand slam moment and the double bagel moment of your career so far, or in the software, whatever you want to share, in this
Oh,
realm or otherwise?
okay, well, the grand slam moment would be, actually, it was like year 2 of Court Reserve. And Tim and I decided to go play in a tennis tournament in Myrtle Beach together. And we were playing mixed doubles. And we were playing a couple from Canada. They were snowbirds. And they were older than we were. And they were kicking our butt. And we were down a set 0-5. And we came back and won the match. That was one of the best grand slams ever. And wow, the other
Wait,
one.
so you guys also play doubles together?
Yes, yes.
Oh my gosh, you must be like the best couple ever. You work together, you play doubles together, and you're still together.
Well, let's be clear. Over the years and years and years we played tennis together, it went in the valleys and the mountains, right? So we would play mixed doubles for a while, and then we would have like one of those matches where you're like, I think I'm going to take a break from you for a while, and then I'll go play with the girls. So, but we have played and come back together over the years. But finally, Tim has come back to tennis now. So I think I'm going to be able to get him back in some mixed doubles soon. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah.
All right, what about a double bagel moment?
Like it was bad. It was bad, wasn't it? Probably the biggest lesson, and probably that double bagel moment. I was playing doubles with a lady at Duke University. They had like a USTA tournament years ago, and we walked out on the court, and our opponents were significantly older women. I mean, like significantly. And we thought this was going to be the easiest tennis match ever. And they rolled us. They rolled us like 0-1. And the
Yeah.
greatest lesson I learned was that you cannot judge a player by what they look like, because they did not move and they put every single ball away. And that was one of the moments that really opened my eyes to never judge a book by its cover. So,
Oh yeah. I think we've all been there, done that for sure. Well, Ashley, it's been such a pleasure hosting you on the podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us and telling us all about Court Reserve. All the
thank you.
best, and hopefully people will contact you. I'm sure on your website there's ways of contacting you.
Yes, for sure. And thank you again. We'll see you on the courts.